Hi, I just arrived at the science fair. So, what is it about?
Oh hi, welcome to our booth. Our booth will be talking about lipid metabolism disorder.
Lipid what?
Take a seat, boy. We'll be explaining to you in the simplest way possible.
Okay.
So, I introduce myself first. My name is Dr. Alan and this is...
Hi, I'm Dr. Teng from Hospital Sultan Idris. It's nice to meet you.
Just call me Is. Well, actually, I want to be a doctor like you too.
That is a good ambition. First, we need to understand the basic knowledge about lipids. So could you tell me what you know about lipid?
I don't know much, but I do know that lipids are one of the four major biomolecules aside from the carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acids.
Yes, that's correct. Lipids are organic compounds that are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but some may contain phosphorus and nitrogen in addition to those three. Lipids are hydrophobic, which means that they are insoluble in water. There are three main groups of lipids, which are triglycerides, phospholipids, and steroids. And there are two types of fatty acids, which are saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. In saturated fatty acid, each of the carbon atoms on the main body of the chain are bonded to maximum number of hydrogen, while in unsaturated fatty acid, there is at least one double bond present that is between the carbon and oxygen atoms. There are many functions of lipids. They can be our energy source, which releases more energy than carbohydrates. They are pretty good energy storage because they require lesser space and weight involved in storage. They can provide structural support, as can be seen on the plasma membrane, where phospholipids act as the cell barrier, and cholesterol maintains the fluidity of membranes. Lipids are good heat insulator. An example of this is the adipose tissue below our skin. The myelin sheath of nerve cells are actually made up of lipid, and they act as electrical insulator. Lipids is also important to protect our internal organs. The fat in our abdomen protects our kidneys and stomach. In some animals, lipids play an important role of waterproofing their fur or hair. Lipids can also be precursors of other steroids. An example of this is that all steroids are synthesized from cholesterol. Do you understand so far?
I understand pretty well, doctor.
Awesome. Now let's proceed to how lipid metabolism is regulated in our body. Excess lipid that is mostly from our diet is stored in the adipose tissue as triglycerides. In times of stress, when the body requires more energy, fatty acids are released from the adipose cells and mobilized for use. The process begins when levels of glucagon and adrenaline in the blood increase, and these hormones bind to specific receptors on the surface of adipose cells. This binding action starts a cascade of reactions in the cell that results in the activation of yet another lipase that hydrolyzes triglyceride in the fat droplet to produce free fatty acids. These fatty acids are released into the circulatory system and delivered to skeletal and heart muscle as well as to the liver. In the blood, the fatty acids are bound to a protein called serum albumin, while in the muscle tissue, they are taken up by the cells in the form of fatty acyl coenzyme A and oxidized to carbon dioxide and water to produce energy.
Oh, now I understand the importance of lipids and that they must be regulated in our body. But I just learned from my biology class today that certain people may lack certain enzyme. So, I wonder, what happened if they lack an enzyme to metabolize lipid?
That is a very good question. So, this is what we call as lipid metabolism disorder, where lipid cannot be metabolized. And this happens due to many factors, and you just state one of them.
Lack of enzyme?
Yes, lipid metabolism disease such as Niemann-Pick disease type A and B. are due to deficiency of enzyme called acid sphingomyelinase or ASM enzyme. This enzyme is responsible to convert a lipid called sphingomyelin into another type of lipid called ceramide. However, certain people doesn't have enough of this enzyme, causing sphingomyelin to accumulate in the cell. I know you are very curious about how these people lack of this specific enzyme. So let me tell you that this is a very rare disease, and it is an inherited disease in a pattern called as autosomal recessive inheritance.
Wait, I learned that from my teacher too. So, people with this Niemann-Pick disease, they obtain the mutated form of gene from their mother and their father.
That is correct. The gene that provides instruction for the production of ASM enzyme is known as SMPD1 gene. However, this gene is mutated and causes Niemann-Pick disease type A and B. Niemann-Pick disease type A or NPDA is the most severe type because the symptoms appear during infancy. The symptoms for type A are hepatosplenomegaly or enlargement of spleen and liver, dysphagia, feeding difficulties, ataxia or loss in motor skills, and interstitial lung disease. Then, those who suffer from NPD type B has a better chance to survive until adulthood because the symptoms appear during late childhood and adolescence. The symptoms are hepatosplenomegaly, low number of platelets in the blood, and high LDL cholesterol or bad cholesterol, which leads to coronary artery disease. However, NPD type C is different from type A and B. This is because NPDC is due to mutation on NPC1 and NPC2 gene that cause inability for cholesterol to transport inside the cell. People with this disease have symptoms like ataxia, dystoxia or poor muscle tone, interstitial disease, and problem with speech.
So, how does this relate to lipid metabolism?
For example, hepatosplenomegaly or enlargement of liver and the spleen. The reason this organ enlarged is because sphingomyelin is accumulated in liver and spleen. Why? It is because the liver is the important site for lipid metabolism. The key point here is from the mutated SMPD1 gene that produce less amount of ASM enzyme. This then lead to less conversion of sphingomyelin into ceramide, which also means that sphingomyelin is being accumulated in the liver. Also, there is no cure for this disease. For NPDA, feeding tubes and medication assist in sleeping are provided. For NPDB, bone marrow transplantation can be done to produce more new blood cells. For NPDC, a drug called miglustat helps to slow the neurological effect. So, to summarize all of this,
Let me summarize this for you. This is Niemann-Pick disease inherited from their parent. There are 3 types NPD, type A, B, and C. It relates lipid metabolism, which involves sphingomyelin. For NPD type A and B, due to lack of ASM enzyme, differ from those R type C. They cannot transport cholesterol, so they accumulate in the cell, which leads to other disease. So now, you know about Niemann-Pick disease. Thank you.